Magnificence is the boundless expanse of being, a liberation from limitation. It is the embodiment of authenticity, where you shed the shackles of self-doubt, shame, and imposter syndrome. Here, worthiness flourishes like a vibrant garden where you have the power to determine your actions, destinations, and your closest relationships. In the realm of magnificence, creative individuality takes center stage. Your greatness is acknowledged, celebrated, and nurtured. Gone are the days of mindless conformity or fitting in just to keep the peace. This show and your host, Patricia Lindner, are here to guide you as you align with your authentic design, leading the way to a life of purpose and fulfillment. Magnificence is not some unreachable peak or distant dream. It's inside you, waiting to shine brighter than you ever thought possible. Welcome to your magnificence.
Today, I'm on the mission to tap into the brilliance of Jason Croft. Jason has been creating professional media content around the world for over 30 years and is a successful host of many shows. He's also the producer of those numerous shows, and he works with business coaches and consultants to create leadership level content. I am so honored and so grateful that he is on this brilliant show. Hello, Jason. Nice to have you.
Oh, so happy to be here. This is going to be a blast. I've enjoyed getting to know you these last couple of weeks, just so recently, but I feel like we've known each other for quite a while already.
That's true. Jason, today we are piercing your persona through the lens of human design and tapping into your brilliance. So the brilliance is obvious, but maybe we can really figure out more and discover more of your amazingness. And before we do that, I would love you to maybe talk a little bit more about what you do, why you do that, and what you think your mission exactly is.
Yeah, happy to. I, as you mentioned, I've been doing, video and film back in the days of actual film, making movies and big corporate events and sporting events, all that fun stuff for 30 plus years now. And that's been a drive and been fun. Jumped in front of the camera really for the first time around 2015 as a marketing initiative. I said, we've got a studio here, we've got cameras, let's create this show. I jumped in the host chair and absolutely fell in love with it. So I kept that going through a couple of different shows. And when I moved to where I am now in Colorado in the United States, it was right before the pandemic, and I was away from my just amazing network of in-person folks where I'd done everything before. So I was kind of forced into figuring out this remote version of video and recording and making a show and still having it look good. That was a big deal to me with my background, right? So that interview, having a show and meeting new people and connecting, that was oxygen for me. So I had to figure this out, and I was so glad that I did because it opened up the world. The case in point today, right? I can have these great conversations with anybody, as we've all discovered through Zoom and these other channels, and it's been fantastic. So I'm helping coaches, consultants do similar things, either working with them remotely to record their own kind of just solo content and help them translate their brilliance over to video, or all the way up to creating their own video podcast that will actually benefit and promote their business.
Oh, that is really amazing. And when I listened to you, I thought, oh my goodness, that is really hard because you already have been standing in the limelight for 30 years or 30 years plus. So you have to do with movie and show and stuff. And so now I come here and I just tell you, within 30 minutes, we will tap into your brilliance and you will totally stand in the limelight. And so this is sort of a challenge. That's what I just figured out listening to you. But we can do that.
I
So,
believe it. I believe it because yeah, the human design aspect of things is very new to me. I just touched, had a little touch of it 6 or 7 years ago from a good friend of mine who was starting out with it, but really didn't dig into it all until just honestly a few weeks ago. And so I really do need this help to stand in my strength because I think like a lot of us, as much as I feel the tug and the pull of what I'd like to do, just a little bit of that courage and maybe and some of the how to of getting into it is needed.
yeah. And I think, or I feel, or I sense that human design, at least from my point of view, is such an amazing tool to really help you stand in your strength and get this validation, maybe even oftentimes the allowance to show up in your fullness, in your greatness, in your brilliance. And yeah, I just thought we might want to look at your chart just for a minute or two, that we can see what your type is so that the audience can see that. And if you're just listening to the audio, you can check out Jason's profile on the YouTube channel and re-listen to the show. Your profile. You are a manifestor with an ego authority and 3-5 martyr heretic. That sounds like very interesting. And so what I wanted to ask you before I talk about your chart. So people oftentimes think of the manifestor as someone who needs to own a leadership position. That's what I heard oftentimes. People say, oh, okay, when you're a manifestor, you're the go-getter. You are the one who is in a leadership position. There are not so many manifestors out there. You are one, and you are one of the rare breed of being an ego manifestor. So what do you think, just from your perception or just from looking at who you are, do you feel like you are someone that needs to be in this leadership position, or what is your perception?
It's a really interesting distinction that I hadn't really thought about until just this moment, that manifestors they don't necessarily need to lead, but they need to not be told what to do.
Yay.
And I think the assumption of leadership off of the fact that they shouldn't be told what to do, I think that's where the assumption is. Their leaders go lead in all of this. But that's exactly what that is an assumption. Those are two very different things, because it can come up as, well, leave me alone. I'm going to do my own thing. I don't want to lead anybody. I won't be led. I don't want to, that can come up. I've found in the past, I'm happy to be in those positions. I haven't sought them out so much as I've been more driven to lead myself, I guess. How do I get better? How do I do this? How do I create this in the past?
Yeah. And so thank you so much for your insights and for your perception from you being this manifestor. I appreciate that a lot. And I'd say you are so right. The big topic of the manifestor, that's what I totally believe, is be and embody freedom. So that is so important. There should be no person to tell you what to do. And especially in your case, and I guess this is why you answered the way that you did, you are an ego manifestor. And so I feel you are the archetype of the manifestor, and you are someone who tends to really have those leadership qualities, really driven by a strong willpower, and really being drawn to a lot of freedom, liberating you from the status quo, from something that just is in those dense structures. And so I would love to distinguish between general manifestors that are initiators, that are always in need of initiating something, bringing something into the world, starting something, going and getting something. And in your case, as the ego manifestor, I would say that you thrive best when you have this leadership role, because you have this strong willpower. And I would love to ask you if this resonates with you.
I think so. I'm certainly comfortable there when I'm there in those spots, right? Not just, I'm in a spot to tell people what to do, but really the languaging around that, whether it's, hiring a contractor or working with people on a set who are, in my department, in the past or whatever that may be. I've also been really in tune with the communication piece of that, because that's the piece to me that's honestly really defines a good leader in a well-run organization or whatever it is, any system, right? And that's always been fascinating to me, and I've worked around for that. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. And you just said there is this big part of communicating with people. And by looking at your chart, even if someone who is watching never ever had a look at a chart, you can see this. And this is so great, really. When you look at your chart, you can see it is like divided into two pieces or two parts. There is the upper part that is defined with all the colorful centers, the head and the ajna, where is the mind, and then the throat, and the little triangle, the red triangle, which is your willpower. And you can really see that as so, even if you never looked at anything about human design, you can see that there is this like electric circuitry from up there, from your crown and from your willpower, both of them leading to your throat, which is the manifestation center. And so that makes so much sense that you talk about communication, using your voice in your career, and doing this in a very driven way, and also doing it with a lot of logic, with a lot of logical processing based on facts. Having the knowledge, so you don't have those question marks in your head. You know how to really guide people. So when someone works with you, I can tell them that they can trust your amazing wisdom, your guidance, your logic, your structure, because you are here to guide others with this intelligence and with this wisdom, because you understand how to look at projects, for example, from different angles, and you give them many points of view on how to proceed, integrating all the wisdom that you can share. And then you have this green ajna center, which is your processor that brings down, and can you see the red line between the green ajna center and your throat?
The 4323.
Yes. This channel is the channel of structuring. And I don't want to call it that way because I want to be out of the box. I want to call it the channel of the genius. For me, it definitely is the channel of the genius, because people who have this channel, I appreciate them very much, because they feel like having amazing ideas. And they seem to be ahead of the time of others. And they can express complex, weird ideas that are so genius that others might not even get what they are talking about. They need more time. That could be depressing for someone with this channel, but just know that you have this amazingness, that you have this genius in you, and that you can share it with the world, maybe in baby steps, maybe one step at a time, maybe giving them bits and pieces of what you already know and being the most amazing guide for them because of that. And now I leave it to you. I just talked a lot about your chart now. How do you feel about this information?
Well, it's exciting for sure. There's like so many aspects of this as I've gotten it the last couple of weeks. It rings very true in that. Well, I'm a genius, really. That's it. No,
Yes.
no, but in the fact that I've how I communicate in the polls that I've had, right? Of I don't know why, but I want to do this, and it all it lines up a lot. Certainly in what I've been doing with the how to structure a show and things like that. It's been ahead of the curve on why, and people are now starting to do it. So there's little aspects of that I see. And it's interesting. It's certainly helpful to have some validation to, yes, you're feeling those pulls to create this or create that. So you better go act on them. It's nice to have that validation. For me, the struggle has been, and even as I realize all this, and I do feel stronger in standing in my truth a little more. Why haven't I done it? I've felt all these pulls and things, but haven't acted on them, haven't um, gone, and brought these things into the world nearly to any degree that I don't like to use this word, but should have. I feel should have, or certainly could have.
Yeah, but just let me tell you that you are exactly where you should be, because you are now processing all the information. And oftentimes, and I had a couple of manifestors that just said the same thing. Now I get all the information. I have the structure, the mind, the wisdom, the capacity, the genius. I have the willpower, and I haven't done it yet. And they were like, "Whoa, what did I miss out? Why haven't I done it earlier?" And oftentimes, and I don't want to dive deeply into your past, but oftentimes manifestor kids, they emanated that power, that freedom, that go-getter mentality with owning so much space that maybe adults could not really allow them to take up so much space. And so they were told to not show up in all of their greatness. And so they learned that showing up as who they are with all their genius is not safe. And so this is like this conditioning that happens to so many manifestors, that they tend to hold back what they own. And I hope that just our conversation helps you to own this greatness more, to own this. And looking at the channels again, this is like a highway, from like a download from your crown to the throat. So working with you is one of the most amazing things, because one can trust that this highway is not affected by anything, not by the moon, not by any cycles, not by other people. You own this. This is your single definition. That's what the definition part is. Those channels from up there to your throat, and from your ego, willpower, to the throat, they are not affected by anything. So people can really rely on this genius capacity. And Jason, I hope this is something that helps you step a little more into owning that you have this, that you got this.
I appreciate that. It certainly does. It really has. I mean, even brief conversation yesterday, and um, it's been a great validating aspect of everything. And again, I took my time yesterday of like, here's you can acknowledge that, sure, maybe it shouldn't have taken this long, or shouldn't have taken, the outside forces. You should have listened when the universe was telling you this whole time. Great, cool, that's there. I forgive myself for that. Let's move on. This is where we are. I allowed myself to let that be there for a minute and then move forward. So it's I feel the energy from all of this.
That is so forward, that is great, because don't spend any of the energy in all those shoulds. Just uncreate and destroy all that you thought about what should have or could have been, because this is eating up the energy that you can use for much better or much greater brilliant ideas and things. And the past is the past. Let's just be exactly where we are now, and add something to what I just said. I want to add that, looking at your profile, which is the 3-5, the modern and heretic, I would point out the fact or the factor that you are someone who is highly experiential and highly experimental. That means that you never rely on someone else's experience or just the word that someone shares with you. You need to dive into the experience or the experiment yourself. And so you are someone that can share amazing gifts with other people because you have been there and you have done that. And I don't know if this is true. I just wanted to share it, talking about your brilliance. And I would love you to tell me if part of it, at least, is true.
Meaning on how I approach all of this, or creating something, or...
Yeah. So are you someone that feels like you must really live through the experience, and not just, so if I say this to you or if someone said it to you, that's not enough? You need to live the experience.
Yeah, it's interesting because, yes, there's truth to that for sure. I think maybe to a fault, in the sense of, I think what has stopped me from just teaching what I know or offering what I do in a major way, that, has been not, is this idea that I haven't done it yet. I haven't done it enough yet to go and do that. And that's, I say to a fault, because you get stuck in a loop, right? Like, oh, well, I haven't taught enough people this thing, so I can't go teach people this thing. And that's a ridiculous cycle, right? And it really takes that jumping off point. And that's what's been interesting to see with all of it, to have the pull that I have of like, I want to create this, this, and this. I've got, work ethic for days. My whole life has been the willpower here that you see. And the support, as when I verbalize, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing next. This is what I'm thinking, like, oh my gosh, that's great. Go do it, And the fact that for so many years now, I just haven't done it. I had just kind of a nothing, of acting on it, which is, again, there's no benefit to sitting in that, of why, because that's just an endless loop of nonsense. But it's curious, right? It's one of those things. The only time spent in it is to go like, okay, make sure I don't, whatever was causing that, don't do that again. But that's interesting with all of it.
Yeah. And so thank you for this sharing, because that again shows that there is the conditioning of not doing things and just thinking twice or three times, or self-doubting what you want to share and what you want to do. And I know that you are so much into the self-development yourself, that you know that you can easily delete all that is holding you back, and that there are so many amazing ways to really get rid of this blocked energy that is stuck somewhere in the field or in the body, so that you can show up as this person that starts now doing all this amazing stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect way to put it, is because that's where mentally I've been with it. It hasn't been woe is me, but it has been this like, okay, everything's here for me. What's going on? What is that block? And what, I have been digging into that just to kind of figure that out for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that gives me this little bridge to talk about the openness in your chart, which many people say this is a challenge, and that could be a challenge, of course. The openness means all the white centers, if there's someone watching who doesn't know about it. So all the white centers mean they are not defined, they are open. And that means that you, Jason, have sort of antennas out into the world, that you really get things into those channels, into those centers from outside, which is not you. It is not yours. You take on stuff. For example, looking at this triangle on the right side, when you look at the screen, which has the 40, is it 49? Yes. The 49th gate. It is the emotional center. That means that you get the emotions of other people easily. You totally get their sadness, their anger, their love, their fear. So you feel what others feel. You have this strong perception of their emotions. And when you don't realize that, that could be that you suck it like a sponge, and you feel like, oh, this is going on inside of me, which actually is not. It is their emotion or their feeling. And the best piece of advice that I can give around this is mirror it back, be like a screen. And now we are back to the movie. Be like a screen and not a sponge, and be someone who lets either pass those emotions through you and not take them on as yours, or just mirror them back to people. But for you professionally, that's amazing, because you get the feelings of your clients and you really tune into what's going on for them, which makes this openness not just a challenge, but also such an amazing gift, because you are so empathetic around what is going on. And I pass it on to you to share what this does to you when I say this.
Yeah, and it's something I love, because I do have that sense, I mean, I've always had just like, what's going on with you? And people are like, what do you mean? Like, I mean, people I don't even know well, right? And in a situation and going like, and their first thing is panic. Like, do you think anybody else noticed? They're like, no, you weren't doing anything. I don't know. I've just got this sense that, this is how you were feeling about it. And they're like, yes, absolutely. So I love it. I think of it as a superpower, right? Like, to take that in and again, because I love this, right? These conversations, whether remote or in person. Um, I would like to to kind of learn how to have that ability, I guess, to turn it on or off if there is such a thing from, I mean, I'm in an office space of, it's therapist office and things like that. And so, even the last couple of weeks, I've found myself just like, why do I feel so, like just horrible stuff. And then kind of clicking is like, is this, is this coming through from other folks or, um, so.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer again that I'd even say for all of us that over 90% of what we think is ours is not ours. That's just what we get from the outside. And just the awareness. You said, how can I switch it on and off? I feel that just the awareness is key to solving this issue. If you're just aware, there's this openness in my lower part, and I get some pressure from the outside because I have the open root, or I get the emotions from the outside. I'm really sensitive when it comes to health. So you really are sensitive. You feel when something's going on in your body. And you need people around you that really appreciate you and that treat you in the way that you deserve it. So that is this delicate openness that you have, and just being aware of it makes it a gift. That is what I think. You can add those protection shields that you can create with your mind, or visualize, or just take a shower in the evening to get rid of everything that is not yours, or use other techniques. But I feel awareness is the first step to protecting yourself. Now, I just wonder, we had about 30 minutes of conversation about your chart, and I shared what I felt is most important for you to even see more of your brilliance and to step even more into the limelight, to even more own who you are. And I would love to ask you, is there anything, like a tangible thing, that you feel like you could do today, tomorrow, next week, just from our little conversation? Is there anything that you take with you?
Yeah, I honestly, I think something small could be a benefit and all of that, but really for me, it is as big as launching that next show that's kind of been in the works, right, for a while, but it hasn't necessarily made logical sense, but I've felt that pull, and I think taking action on that, I feel just a lot that I don't know what's going to come of it, but it's going to be something substantial. And so for me, that's probably the biggest thing to take action on from this and feel empowered to do so. And maybe this is very nuanced, but something I've noticed too, as I feel more empowered through all of this, that in the past it would be, okay, great. Somebody tell me what to do with this, and in learning everything that I have learned too, it's like, that's not how you're wired. You shouldn't be. Stop looking for that. And I think that's where I've been so lost in things of being exhausted by, I don't know, the mental game, and then just going, somebody just tell me what to do. Somebody tell me, and of course that's disempowering for anyone, but especially a manifestor who's not supposed to have anyone tell them what to do. And so you have these two things at odds for so long, and it feels really good for that to have gone away, so much, even these last few weeks. So it relates to all this as well as we've had conversations, right? And gone deep on this. My reaction a couple of months ago, and maybe like, okay, cool. Tell me what I should do with this. Tell me what I should create. Instead it's just like, okay, this is awesome. I know what to do. I know I need to go take these actions.
Yeah. I love that you're slowing down, and it even feels like it feels magical when you talk about the new project that
Mm.
you planted. So you made me curious, and I really want to ask you, what is it all about? Because it is so important for you as the manifestor with your chart to really listen to your instincts, to not wait for anyone to allow you do anything. So never doubt yourself. And it feels so really magical, something like this amazing magical plant that is growing and something big is growing, but you give it the time and you really pay attention to this project and you listen to your inner guidance. That's what I just heard from you, just really touching upon this project. What is it about? Could you just give a little sneak peek on what is this project about?
Yeah, so it's different than what when I brought up a few minutes ago, or right before you hit record. The next one is really it's solo content, just me teaching, guiding, maybe interviews down the road, which is my normal style of show, but something very specific about um, audio only, which again is kind of backwards thinking in terms of like what I tell people to do and what should do. But I felt that pull, but also it's around this coaching aspect, coaching around power content. It's what I call creating this leadership level content, and really a lot of the how to go about this and the information I've been gathering, all this time from just learning, and I just love it all. But letting that out, on a very regular basis, just teaching and guiding, and I know there's a component of that I am really excited about too, of just the brainstorming aspect, because that's my favorite stuff. Getting that, whether it's someone on the show or someone submitting, just like, hey, I want ideas for this. Awesome. Let's jump in and do that on the spot. Those things are big aspects of it. So that's the goal.
You just touched me with what you said, because it contains so many aspects of what we talked about. So it contains the aspect of you using your voice, which is your manifestation center. It is about you using all your experiences and the experiments of your life, sharing with the whole world, and really jumping into this, being the manifestor and sharing this without doubting or fearing, because the world needs that. And you said it's about, it's guidance that comes from your brilliant mind. And so this project, I believe it is brilliant and it shows all your brilliance. And so I just want to say kudos on you for this new idea that you're following through.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you for the words and the languaging on top of, again, that validation piece of just like, you should be doing this because what most people, obviously everyone listening, watching won't know is that, this has all been in the works and in my Evernote, and here's what I want to do and here's what I should be doing, for a year plus, and haven't and then to hear this description of here's where your strength is, and it lines up completely with what I've been pulled and didn't know why, but wanted to do. That's the real magic of all this. I think that's so wild. And so it's really exciting. And I think I'll call it the power content coach is like the show right now. That's what's coming to me with it. And this whole journey and learning all of this stuff is it's certainly empowering for me, but it's also a place I shared with you last week, having run the charts of all three of my boys, they're manifestors, all of my sons. So as I figure this out for myself, helping guide them along the way. So, maybe shorten their path of,
Yes.
of success.
That's even more amazing because you just allow them to be in their full power because you totally understand it. You lived it through. And so that's so great that you are this wise dad that can guide them and help them with their own journey of being a manifestor. That's so great.
I hope so. We'll hope.
Yeah. So I would love to wrap it up and come to a final, maybe a final something. That is what I just have in my mind. Something that you want to share with the audience. Anything. I don't want it to be specific, just anything that comes to your mind right now, because I trust your brilliant mind that it is exactly the right thing that comes right now.
Well, that's a lot of pressure. Oh my goodness. No.
Excuse me.
No, I'm excited. This has been a blast, and I just encourage anyone watching or listening to kind of go down this path. They may be deep into human design. They maybe just be hearing about it, but that's why I keep reflecting back this idea that it's just been a validating process these last few weeks. And I keep saying these few weeks because that path for me was, again, the term and a couple of things given to me like 6 or 7 years ago. And then that was it. And then a few weeks ago, it was brought up again. I was like, let me go look in those notes again. And I am ADHD. So that digs into, and I've just like consumed like crazy all this stuff. But it is rung so true to me, not just where I'm sitting right now, but like my entire life. You go back and it makes so much sense. And it just gives a framework a little bit to now navigate from. And again, whether, we should need it or not, all that nonsense, like it's great to be there. And it's been that for me, to that extra permission, like, here you go, like, get to work, let's go. Yeah.
And it definitely should not box you in or restrict you from doing anything that is not in the human design chart, because that is nonsense as well. When someone says, oh, you are this and that, and you're not allowed to do this. So I totally am not with people who say this, but I encourage people that are watching the show to really wait for the new project of Jason Croft and to reach out and maybe get in touch with this amazing, brilliant manifest that can guide you on your journey, your entrepreneurial journey of showing up with all your amazingness, with all your brilliance. He is the go-to person for amazing, amazing stuff to develop together with him. And I will put his contact notes into the show notes so you can reach out to Jason. Jason, thank you so much for having this conversation with me, for being so open to let me share your human design chart. And it was such a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, pleasure was all mine. Thank you so much for having me. This has been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us for this empowering episode. To continue this journey of aligning with your true purpose and uncovering your magnificence, schedule an illumination call with Patricia at patricialindner.com. Please share this episode with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the show on YouTube and your favorite podcasting platform. Join us again soon for another episode of Magnificence.